Okay, so in part 3, this is where most of you will be starting off and kind of where we left off as a group. So I'm going to go ahead and set up the fade out or fade to black with the Y object. And anytime in cycles you want to have an object fade in or fade out, this is pretty much the way to do it. So I'm going to select my Y object. I'm going to come over here to the far right hand side and I'm going to click on the materials panel. And I'm going to focus my attention right down here into this little area here called surface. So here under surface it says diffuse right now. And what I need to do is I need to combine two different what are called shaders. So I need to combine two different shaders. One shader is going to allow us to have the image texture that we did, which is showing right here. And the other shader is going to be called transparent shader. And that transparent shader will allow us to make the object go transparent and animate it over time. So here's how we do it. We come right here to where it says surface, and it says diffuse. I'm going to click on that pop-up menu. I'm going to choose mix shader, and the mix shader allows me to mix two shaders together. You'll see right down here we have two pop-up menus that say shader and shader. And right now they're both set to none. And because they both went to none, you can now see that your Y object is no longer showing your texture. But don't let that bother you. The last thing you need to know is there's this slider here that says FAC, and FAC stands for factor. And right now what that means is that this is the way that you mix and you blend between these two shaders, how you combine them. And so if you have the factor, it's at 50% or halfway. So that means it's using equal parts or equal strength of these two shaders. If I move it all the way to 0, it's going to use one of them completely. If I move it all the way to 100% or 1.0, it's going to use the other one completely. I'm going to click inside there and type in 0.5 and hit return so I get back to 50%. Okay, so for my first shader, I'm going to click on where it says none. I'm going to choose diffuse, and this is where I can start bringing it back to being solid and have the Y texture on it. So now I'm going to look right down here, and where you see it says color, you'll see we have the color picker, but to the right of the color picker we have this little dot. And I want you to click on the little dot to the right of color, not anything else, color. And when you do that, another menu will pop up, and you're going to choose image texture. When you choose image texture, that tells Blender to use some kind of image texture, some kind of image or photo that you made. Now, I could come down here and click on Open and then go find that Y texture that we made, but it's actually already in Blender because we brought it in before. So to the left of the Open button, you'll see a little pop-up menu, and you'll see right here, this is the texture picker, and this shows all the textures that we currently have loaded into Blender. So I can just click on it, and there you go. If you click on the pop-up menu and you don't see it for some reason, you can click on Open, or you can click on this folder icon, and that will then do this, and then you can go find your texture, and there you go. Okay, so you'll see that now I now am back to where I was. Nothing really special has happened, except maybe it's a little bit darker. Okay, but now I'm going to go ahead and click on this little minus symbol here just to simplify things for you. So I now have the diffuse shader set up. Now I need to come here to the second shader and change it from none to transparent. And then I'll go ahead and minus that out. So, okay, so now I have this set up properly. And right now, again, remember, it's combining equal parts. It's at 50% of the texture that you're seeing and 50% transparent. So here's how we do the animation. In my camera view, let me zoom in, and you can see the Y object, it's 50% there and not, so you can see it's kind of faded. I'm going to come down to the bottom of the camera window, and I'm going to click on the viewport shading button, and this time I'm going to choose rendered. And when I choose rendered, things get a little faded, okay? What's happening is now it's actually rendering the lighting effects and things like that. So to make things easier to see, I'm going to come over here to my 3D view. I'm going to right click to select my light, my lamp. I'm going to go ahead and move it forward. Okay, so I'm moving it forward. I'm going to go ahead and maybe bring it down, and you'll see that as I start bringing it down, I'm going to go ahead and bring it over a little bit, and you'll see that as I'm bringing it over the camera and basically closer to the content in my scene, you can see here it is here. Everything is lighting up a little bit more. If I bring it down further, you'll see there it is. You can see the X is getting brighter and the Y is getting a little brighter here. So I'm going to leave it right here. And there we go. While I'm here on the lamp, and I've selected lamp, I'm going to come over here to the right-hand side, and I'm going to click on the light or lamp panels. I'm going to click on this lamp here, and let's see, I'm going to go ahead and make sure I'm back on frame 1. And on frame 1, I'm going to go ahead and come over here to my lamp panel, and you're going to see a little area over here that says Nodes, and you're going to see a button that says Use Nodes. Click on Use Nodes. Now what I have is I have this little slider here that says Strength. Right now the strength is set to 100, and I want to make it a little brighter than that. So I'm on frame 1. I'm going to set it to maybe 150 and hit Return. Okay, so now if I go ahead and I go forward a little bit, you will see that it's a little bit brighter. I'll change it so you can see. Go back to frame 1, go ahead and change this to 200. Okay, and now when I go forward, you'll see it is in fact brighter. It's a little tough to tell, but it is in fact brighter. So I think 200 is a pretty good setting for my lamp. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and save it. I'm going to select my Y object, and I'm going to come back here. I'm going to show you how to animate this fade out effect. Okay, so right now my Y object is 50% faded and 50% there. And I want it to be completely here. So here's how we do it. To make this easier for you guys to see, I'm going to show you my background right now is this middle gray color. And I want it to be pitch black. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to frame 1. And before I finish the Y, I'm going to make it black, and then you'll be able to see it much better. So the way you do your background is over here on the right-hand side, you're going to come over here and click on the 4th panel here that's called World. And under World, you'll see an area called Surface. You're going to click on Use Nodes, and you're going to see the color of the background. It's this dark charcoal gray. I'm going to go ahead and click on that, and I'm going to use Pure Black. And now you'll see that my environment gets through Pure Black. And I'm going to go ahead and Control S and save. And now when my X comes in there, it's a little bit brighter. You can now see things, and there we go. And again, the reason why I'm seeing this here is because this viewport window here I have set to rendered. You may notice your computer goes a little slower, but it's really nice to be able to see this. Okay, so now with the Y object selected, I'm going to go back to the Materials panel, and let's look at this factor setting. If it's at 0.5, remember we're seeing these two here. So what happens if I set it to 0? If I set it to 0, it means that it's getting, you can see it, it came in a little stronger. That means it's getting 100% of the diffuse and 0% of the transparent. If I start bringing this up, increasing it, you'll notice that it's getting more and more and more faded until when I get to a setting of 1, which means 100%, it's fully gone. So in this case, 0% means, or a factor of 0 means all of the first shader and none of the second shader. And a setting of 1 means none of the first shader and all of the second shader. So here's the trick. Go back to frame 1, and I'm going to set my factor to 0. That means it's fully here, no transparency. I'm going to put my mouse pointer over this slider that says factor. While it's over there, I'm going to press I. And when I do that, you'll see that this has now created a keyframe for this here. Okay? I'm now going to go ahead and change my keyframe over here, and you can see that it's fading in, and part of why it looks like it's getting darker is because it's moving away from the camera, or sorry, away from the light. So it's moving away from the physical light source, so it is getting darker. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to actually, on its last keyframe, which is frame 156, that's when this factor should be set to 1. So I'm going to go ahead and up this to 1. You can see it's disappeared here on the camera view, and now I need to keyframe this so Blender records this. So I'm going to put my mouse pointer over the factor slider, press I, and you can see that it went gold. Okay, so now what you see is happening, if I rewind, is it plays, it's going out, and as it's spinning, it's fading and going, and you can watch it over here. You can see it's going from a 0 factor all the way to 1. Now the only other thing that you can choose to do if you want is you can tell it to not fade so fast. So what I can do is if I want, I can say, you know what, at this frame, look at this, at this frame it's at 50%. Maybe I don't want it to be that. So what I can do is I can just manually change this back to 0 and then put in another keyframe. So I'm going to set it back to 0, press I, and that's it. It remembers it. So when it's coming in here, it's at 0, 0, 0, 0, and then it starts to fire off. And now it starts to do that. Okay? So again, you can play around with that up here on the dope sheet. So the way you do that, and I apologize if you can hear my laptop's fans. So I'm going to come up here to the dope sheet. I'm going to press A to deselect all my keyframes. And this is the keyframe right here, this little guy right here. For me, it's my frame 82. And again, I can press G, and I can move it to the left and make it happen sooner. And I can make it go to the right, and I can make it happen later. So you just have to eyeball it and get comfortable with the dope sheet. If you ever need to delete a keyframe, make sure you only have a keyframe selected that you want to delete. You can then press X, and you then choose which keyframes you want to do. Okay, so that's it. The Y object is coming in, it's spinning, it's properly set up in cycles, and that is it. I'm going to go ahead and cut here. In the next one, we'll go ahead and do the Z object, which is pretty straightforward, and we'll start doing the ground plane and the 3D and all that kind of good stuff. Okay, see you then.